Hey there, welcome to SaaS Unbound, brought to you by SaaS Group. I'm your host, Anna Dana, and this is the show where we chat with inspiring founders and experts to get an inside scoop on how they made their business success. And today with me is Rand Fishkin, book author, founder of Moz, co-founder and CEO of SparkToro, an audience research tool that helps you discover people's sources of influence. And if you're even a little bit into content and SEO space, you probably knew that already because Rand is difficult to miss, and it's super nice to have you here. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Anna. Good to be here.
Well, I couldn't get enough excitement from my colleagues and friends who knew that you were coming to the podcast. I got some scribbles, some, questions from the audience. So
Love it.
Even though we're not live. But like I said, it's super cool to have you here. And obviously, I said we are going to focus on SparkToro and the way you're building it, the way you're growing it. But it would be just such a mistake, I think, to not ask you a few things about SEO, what you think about it, and the strategies that you're using for growing your personal brand and growing SparkToro as well. So maybe if we can start there first, all right? With first of all, why you started building SparkToro? What's so different in it from Moz, right? And honestly, sorry, I started thinking about Moz, and I thought it rings a bell on such a deep level. Why is it? And then I went to my very old Dropbox account and checked it. And turned out Moz was one of the very first marketing tools that I've used in my career. So again, very cool to have you here. So why SparkToro? What makes it so different and so unique, and what you're working on right now?
Sure. Yeah. So let's see. Lots of big differences between Moz and SparkToro. So Moz was started without a lot of intentionality. I think many founders can probably relate to being an accidental founder. Like they didn't intend to start a business, but sort of tripped and fell into it. And Moz was certainly that for me. I started actually with my mom, Jillian. This is a long time ago now. Back in 2001, we started working together, and then launched a blog that became this consulting business in SEO. That was in 2003, and then turned that into a software business in 2007. And Moz was one of the very first sort of what I'd call self-service SaaS products. So now SaaS is very familiar to many folks, and there's self-service and enterprise. Moz was self-service back when software as a service was quite rare. And so, investors were tough to get around the idea. There were very few companies. Salesforce was one of the few companies that anybody had heard of or knew about that was doing software as a service. And of course, they were enterprise. So Moz eventually raised venture capital and quite a large amount over a number of years. It grew to a lot of people, 200 plus people, multiple offices in different cities, completed a bunch of acquisitions of smaller marketing technology and talent acquisitions, and grew to, I think about when I left the board of directors, which was 2020, Moz was doing around 50 million in revenue, had a little over, I think, 30,000 paying subscribers, customers, and a team of around 150. They'd done some layoffs. But I left Moz in 2018, left the company and started SparkToro in a very different way, different in every kind of way. So my co-founder, Casey, and I wanted to be very intentional from the start about what we were building and why we were building it and how we were going to build it. And so SparkToro is also marketing technology, right? Also self-service SaaS, but not in the SEO space. We never wanted to raise venture capital, and we still maintain that. We plan never to raise money again, in fact. we built it to be a very tiny team. So for the first 2 years, it was just Casey and myself. And then we hired Amanda Natividad. The three of us basically are all that at SparkToro is. We use lots of contractors and other resources, but we intend to keep the team extremely tiny, probably for the very long term. I'd be shocked if we ever get above 10 or 15 people. So intentionally keeping it really, really small. We did raise money. I couldn't afford to fund the business on my own, and SparkToro did require a lot of R&D in the first 18 months before we were able to launch our product. So we raised money from private investors, a lot of people in the marketing world and tech world who believed in this sort of very unique model. And the idea behind it is that we raised 1.3 million, and as we make profits, we pay back our investors the 1.3, and then they own units of distribution in the LLC. And every year we hope to pay them a dividend. So this year we're actually planning on paying back our investors their full investment, and then we get to split the profits for hopefully decades to come. Very, very different kind of model, unusual to say the least, but
Right.
but we hope interesting to a lot of folks for whom the venture style, invest in 1,000 companies and 10 of them do well, doesn't work, right? For a lot of investors, they can't invest in 1,000 companies. So that's our plan.
But you've been, and I think to a lot of people to this day, you are associated with SEO, right? And
hopefully not. I've been working for 5 years to try and stop that.
I mean, just a little, but still, it's such a tremendous shift, right? What you said, you started 2023, right? So it's 17 years, right? It's a lot, right? It's a lot to make that shift in the customer's mind. So what are you doing? Well, basically, yeah. What are you doing to make it happen? And why did you close the door to SEO completely?
Because I had a non-compete. So very, very simple, right? When I left Moz, I basically had to sign something that said that I would not start a company or engage in any practices or help any other SEO software companies do anything that could help, that was intentionally SEO software. And so SparkToro is not at all SEO software. If people email me about SEO, I always reply, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to help you. And I try and refer them to good consultants and agencies. But yeah, so I have a non-compete that.
All my questions.
Sorry?
I'm scratching all my questions.
No, if you ask me about SEO, I can give you my opinions, but I haven't been in the field for 5 years, and that field moves very fast, right? SEO is a very fast moving field. So I expect, I hope that a lot of the things that I know are no longer the way things work, right? That essentially we are living in a different kind of world now. I don't know. I was at a conference recently where a lot of SEO speakers were, and I was surprised at how little had changed, but yeah, that could just be me. So the reality with SparkToro in terms of, trying to move away from that brand is I do a lot of podcasts and interviews. I do a lot of presentations and blog posts and writing, video marketing, right? You'll see a lot of little videos from me on Twitter and LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook. I do a tremendous number of guest appearances on other people's, YouTube channels, and essentially try and share this message about, hey, what is audience research and why should anyone be doing? Startups, it's probably the most obvious thing in the world why a startup should do audience research. But, how can SparkToro help with that? What is the practice around building competence and confidence in your results there? And then how can you use that data to do better marketing? And I think what's tough, Anna, is you're right. There are many people for whom they'll never get over this association, right? They they've heard of me once to do with SEO, and I'm not going to change their mind, even if for the next 50 years I talk about, nothing but audience research or something else. But my hope is that some people who are paying attention will sort of go, hey, actually, that sounds really interesting to me. And SEO is not the only channel I'm interested in, or it's not the best channel for us. Maybe I can find some opportunities to kind of do a little bit of what Rand's doing, which is essentially marketing through people's sources of influence in a field to reach them and be effective. That's my goal. Yeah.
Right. But I love what you're doing. First of all, I've seen it, like you said, a ton of your appearances. You type Rand into into YouTube, and that's like the only Rand that you see. So and that's brilliant, because then other people generate content, and then they work on SEO, and then it inevitably drives traffic back to you. So if not SEO, and one question that I also wanted to ask is, because on a lot of those podcasts you say that SEO is not for everyone, and not every business should do that. So what businesses should still?
Sure. Yeah. So let's see. If lots of your potential customers are unfamiliar with your space, and they have a rough set of a few dozen to thousand keywords that they type into Google to learn more about the space. I'll give you an example. Like if you are trying to find a plumber in your area, and you don't already have a relationship with a plumber, well, probably you're going to go to Google and you're going to search for, plumbers near me, or whatever, plumbers in Cincinnati, Ohio, plumbers in New York, plumbers in Seattle. And if you rank in those results, you're going to get some clicks. You're going to get some phone calls. You're going to get some email inquiries. It's probably a great use of SEO, right? I would recommend that to someone. Now, let's say that you are starting a new candy bar company. So you're competing with, whatever, Mars bars and Snickers and M&Ms. What are you going to do with SEO? Give me a keyword that you could possibly rank for that's going to help sell your candy bar. There's probably nothing. Like, to be totally honest, right? I can't think of a single keyword where it would help, because nobody goes to Google and says, hey, Google, what's a new candy bar on the market that I should buy? Forget it. Like, it just doesn't happen. So probably what you have to do is go find sources of influence in maybe the food and beverage space, or partnerships with supermarkets or convenience stores, or maybe you can do a partnership with a media brand that can help get you in front of people. Maybe you need to do broad brand advertising. Maybe it's all about placement and you're going to do a lot of events. Maybe you need to do outdoor advertising, right? The kinds of things that you might do to sell a new candy bar are just completely different, and SEO can't help you at all. And most businesses are somewhere in between these two, right? Somewhere in between, hey, everybody just goes to Google and looks for the keyword because they don't know what brands to search for, and that, they're not going direct and they don't have a prior association, or in the plumber case, or, there's no SEO at all. Nobody searches for anything to do with it in the candy bar example. And you're probably somewhere on the spectrum, and you should balance your marketing efforts based on that, right? This is true for every single kind of marketing. So, for example, if you are reaching, let's say, teenagers, right, with your product and your marketing, email marketing is probably not the best thing you can do. But if you're reaching anyone over the age of 25, email is probably one of the very best things you can do, and you would be insane not to invest in it, right? So this PR, for example, PR is fantastic if your audience already pays attention to a set of publications and publishers and news sources. And it's pretty terrible if there's no particular publication that reaches your market, right? So PR for a candy bar company, well, might work a little bit. Probably not the greatest thing you could invest in, the most opportunity, but you probably have some opportunity there. And if you're a plumber, pretty mediocre, right? The problem is, even if you get a lot of good PR, well, only the people who are both reading the news source at the time and also have a plumbing problem will ever contact you. And that's a very small percent of your audience. What you want is to be in front of people when they're looking for the problem that you solve, which is why SEO works so well for a local plumber. So these are the challenges, and any marketing strategy, in my opinion, should be aware of who is our audience, what do they pay attention to, how can we reach them, what are we good at and bad at in terms of whatever content or email or social or SEO. I've never seen a marketer who's like, I'm terrible at Instagram, or like I hate Instagram. I hate doing it.
Right.
Like, it annoys the heck out of me. I hate going on there. I never use it, but I'm really good at marketing through it. That never happens, right? And so I would urge you to lean on things that you enjoy doing and get value from and are good at as well.
All right. So, well, let's talk more about SparkToro. Where
Sure.
does it find the most value? Where is your audience? How do you do research about what will help you and your business?
Yeah. So let's see. Basic story for SparkToro is that our customers tend to be one of two kinds of folks, well, maybe three. In the startup world, it tends to be a lot of founders and co-founders and executives, especially those folks who are kind of doing their own marketing. So very small team, kind of like me, right? I'm working on a tiny little team. I do a lot of my own marketing. So I use SparkToro to find the sources of influence that I'm going to reach out to and that will hopefully reach my audience and that kind of thing, right? But which podcasts should I go try and pitch? What YouTube channel should I be on? What sources of influence should I try to reach people through? What's my audience talking about online? And I can go create content around that. Which hashtags are they using? When I post to social, I'm going to use those hashtags. What words and phrases are in their bios? Okay, I'm going to go try and target those people on LinkedIn specifically and write things for them. All that kind of stuff, right? With SparkToro's audience, we tend to find that the other two groups that are very big for us are in-house marketers. So someone who's, for example, like buying ads for their company, right? They're doing Reddit advertising or LinkedIn or YouTube or Google ads, Meta ads, right? Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of stuff. And they're essentially just using SparkToro to find data that those big networks have taken away. So, years ago, before the Cambridge Analytica scandal, you go to Facebook and be like, hey, tell me about my audience, right? And they'd give you all these demographics and they'd tell you what other pages they paid attention to, and they'd give you lots of data about them. Awesome. Fantastic. Love that. It's gone. Like totally gone. And Google has done the same thing. YouTube's done the same thing. Like Reddit's done the same. Twitter used to have all this data in Twitter analytics. That's all gone. But SparkToro kind of gives it back, right? So you can search for, my audience has whatever this attribute, or they describe themselves this way, or they follow this social account. Okay, now tell me about the people and that follow that social account or have that word in their bio or whatever, and all the data about them, demographic data, behavioral data. Great, now I can go do way better targeting in my advertising, or my content, or my social media marketing, or my PR efforts, or my co-marketing, or whatever I'm going to do. Basically anything that's not SEO, it'll help you with that. And then the other group, in fact, probably our biggest, most successful group of customers, is agencies and consultants. And that's because agencies and consultants essentially use SparkToro like on every project to help every one of their customers do all of these things better. And they tend to find that the data in there is just invaluable. They can apply it to lots of different projects. It helps them win pitches in business and helps them, have better results for their clients. So agencies and consultants get a ton out of it. And I think because they're the most sophisticated marketers generally, right? They have like the most experience. They've seen a lot across a bunch of campaigns. They tend to get the most value from marketing software. So that was true at Moz as well. And now it's true at SparkToro.
All right. What I was referring to actually, like how do you find audience, right? So For example, like your brand, right? Huge. I mean, talk about personal branding for founders, then, you're the perfect examples. But how, and well, correct me, or I don't know, tell me to edit it out, but how much do you think of the overall success of SparkToro is the fact that you are so vocal and you're known in the space? So people go, well, everyone says build credibility, build trust, and then
Yeah.
it's so much easier for people to buy from you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, what do you think is the percentage of the success
Hmm.
is you?
It's a tough question. So my suspicion is it really, really helped us a lot in the first maybe 3 or 4 months, right after launch, and building our like email list before we launched. So we launched in April 2020, which is a terrible, terrible time to launch a company because obviously the pandemic was just starting and
Right.
nobody was thinking about new marketing technology. But we did manage to, we had a big list of, I think, almost 20,000 people who had basically signed up to get notified when we launched, who had expressed interest in it. Building up that list, over the sort of prior 2 years. So Casey had been working on the product and I'd been doing a lot of like market research and interviewing potential customers and that kind of stuff. And then Casey had been building the product and we've been testing it, beta testing it. We finally launched, and that list was absolutely essential to us kicking off and doing well in our first few months. And I think that's where my whatever personal brand probably helped a lot. But since then, I think that there's no doubt about it, right? My personal brand helps make it easier for us to get whatever opportunities to go on a podcast or to be on someone's YouTube channel or to get an interview or to be covered in the press or, reached out to for a story, those kinds of things. But the product, if the product isn't great, people are just going to cancel, right? I mean, no one's even going to sign up. The product is completely free, right? So SparkToro is free. Anyone can go there, get 50 searches a month. And unless you see a bunch of value in upgrading from, like this data looks really good, I need more of it, I want more of these features and functionality, no one's going to be like, well, I really like Rand, so I think I'm going to sign up. That's not how
No,
software works at all.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, no, 100% agree with you. That's what I'm asking about. Like the first adopters, it's super difficult to reach the audience, full
Yeah.
of people, right? Building a product is no longer a problem. It's as cheap as it ever will be,
Yeah.
and but the customer acquisition cost, it's just through the roof, right? So I guess that's why everyone's just so obsessed about building their own brand, because it's like, I don't know, buying a makeup course on Instagram from, a girl that's been posting makeups for 10 years. That's what
Right.
sorry,
Yeah.
that's a horrible example, but
No, it's a really good one, right? Especially if that person has built up, doing it for a long time has some value,
yeah,
but being trusted and liked by that audience and followed by that audience already is
yeah,
a great match. And I think this points to something that folks have been calling for the last few years founder market fit, which I actually really like that term. I usually hate VC terminology, but this one makes a lot of sense to me, right? Where it's, this founder is sort of known and trusted in this space, has a lot of experience there, knows a lot of the players there, I don't know, gets invited to the conferences and events in that space, has a lot of the right connections, all those kinds of things. And then if the market matches the founder's strengths, I think that's a great choice for whatever, an investment or putting your eggs in those kinds of baskets. You can see why it works so well when, to your point, person who is an influential authority in makeup world or marketing software world or fashion or AI, doesn't matter, right? if that person is a match for that world, folks are going to come, and that's how you build audiences when you don't already have one.
Right. So, if you were starting right now or a year ago, then what would be your channels of personal branding?
Yeah, I think, let's see, assuming that SparkToro was the thing that I wanted to build, I suspect what I would do is I would probably go work. Let's assume I have no brand, nothing in the marketing space. No one's ever heard of me. I'd
Right.
probably go work at an agency for a couple of years and try and build up my both portfolio of work and experience and network through that agency. I'd probably pick a small to mid-size agency where, hopefully if I did good work, I could, get on stages and talk about it, and I could write blog posts about it, and the agency would have a reason for me to be a public face for them. And then I would take that network and launch my company. I would not try and build a company with no presence in a space. It's just too hard.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
that's super interesting. You're
Yeah.
talking about like 2 years work, 2 years of
Yeah. I mean, I
branding.
think like build your network, right? Build your network and your expertise and your personal brand before you go build your company. It's just going to be so much easier if you just try and launch the product and then market it. Gosh, I see so many founders who struggle with any kind of customer acquisition, any kind of traction marketing, because they think, well, I made a great product, people should buy this product. It's not how it works, man. Right? Like
Oh yeah.
it's just not. You could have the most delicious candy bar in the world, but
True.
yeah, how are you going to distribute it, right? That's the question.
Okay. What are the channels that are kind of universal that you notice that no matter what you're building, that's the channel where you can get at least some customers.
Email?
Email?
Well, no matter what. Okay,
Something
you know
that's
what? There's
super
very, very few. It is almost impossible to think of a uh, sector or a space where content is not valuable, right?
sure.
If you're that plumber, even if you do nothing else, if you're putting out, good YouTube videos about like how to fix this particular thing in this particular area, how do you deal with the, I don't know, unique sewage problems of the Seattle water system, how to fix these particular types of sinks, which are very popular with the kinds of homeowners that use service. That's going to help you, right? And same thing if you're that candy bar company and you're putting out content around whatever people enjoying your candy bar, or whatever the unique features and benefits of it are, or the positioning that you're going after, I don't know, giving it away at a basketball game, like whatever you're doing, content is almost certainly going to help amplify your reach. And it's hard to think of anyone who shouldn't be doing some form of content marketing.
Okay. What about AI generated content, and how do you feel about the whole craze about AI in marketing?
Yeah, I hope everyone uses it, because then it will be very easy to stand out as a human, because they'll all suck at it and I'll be great.
Yeah, I just read this like seriously like 5 minutes before the podcast. I opened LinkedIn, and there was a post. AI is not going to replace you, but a person that knows how to work with AI will. And yeah, I think
Maybe. I mean, it depends on
the
what you do.
yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
absolutely. Maybe we
Depends on what
can.
you do. No, so let's see. Here's how I feel about AI content generation. I think it is, I have used it a little bit for what I'd call like brainstorming, or getting out of a creative rut, or thinking of a few ideas that I might not have thought of already. But as a writer, as a creator, AI is boring. It is old. It has no emotion. and it hallucinates facts, right? So it comes up with things and presents them very confidently as being true when they are not. And if you present those same things as being true without verifying them and citing your sources, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. AI content currently does not cite its sources. There are some plugins that are, working to connect to the web and then cite sources. These have copyright issues for sure, right? Because essentially you're just stealing other people's content and then language training on it. And then when you cite them, are you at risk of getting in copyright violation territory with them? So I think, Italy recently banned ChatGPT, I think probably for the wrong reasons, but it's not hard for me to imagine a lot of governments and whatever.
It's back.
Is it back?
It was like relaunched like with another name, so where it's like Pizza GPT or something. So
sure,
it just makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just so
yeah.
much
So
I wish they all just rename it like this.
Yeah, why not? No, I mean, my sense is I think that there are plenty of use cases for large language model AIs. I talk to programmers and engineers, and they're like, "Oh my God, for whatever, debugging my code or writing a quick piece of code that I can just take and insert somewhere and test, or showing me brainstorming some examples of ways that I could solve a particular coding problem." The use cases are phenomenal, right? Just terrific. Like, hey, write me this thing that's going to use AWS's machine learning system and call these variables and blah, blah, blah. Like, great, fantastic. Love it. Large language models, AIs are great for that. If you want to create marketing content, I don't know. I mean, I think you can use it behind the scenes to sort of brainstorm some ideas. If you want to, hey, ChatGPT, here are 3 social media posts about this topic. Can you brainstorm some ideas for me about like things I could write about that would be relevant to these people? Not the worst, right? If you're having trouble coming up with an idea that you want to write about, not the worst to plug that into ChatGPT, and then it'll sort of spicy autocomplete, give you some text that might inspire an idea. Go for it.
If you're hiring and one person has 5 years experience, but another has 3, but knows how to work with prompts and AI, who would you hire?
I mean, neither of those things are interesting, right? So years of experience to me is not a predictor of
overall same people, same experience.
Yeah, same people.
Cool, know their stuff.
I mean, the thing is, it's so easy to learn how to use prompts. That's not a barrier to entry at all, right? I just don't, people talk about like, oh, well, this person's like an amazing, whatever, prompt engineer. What, in the last 5 months, you've somehow become a master of this thing? No, anyone could, you spend whatever, 5 days on YouTube and Google learning about AI prompts, and you go practice a little bit, you're going to be great. You're going to be just fine. That's not expertise. It's sort of like I am an expert at typing.
Right.
Wonderful, right? Like, great. You know what? A few weeks course and most people can get really good at typing. This is not a unique skill.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So yeah, back to SparkToro. I think I haven't asked too much of what I actually set out to do. So one thing is you're not just small, you're a teeny tiny team. So why did you decide that, and if it's enough, I've interviewed enough founders with the small teams that are doing millions and millions in revenue. They're making a huge difference. And that's great, amazing. What's your reason behind it? Like, why not have more?
Yeah. The 2 big things for me are, one, I don't necessarily believe that more people would help make SparkToro much better. So that's certainly, first and foremost. And then the second one is that I personally don't enjoy or get um, energy from management. I don't like managing people. I don't enjoy doing, sort of hands-on, whatever, one-on-ones and coaching and, building a team, interviewing people, doing performance reviews, building out that structure. All that stuff drains energy for me. I hate it. I don't like it at all. I'd much rather work with a tiny team of people that I like and trust, and we all just kind of we just get along. There's not structure. There's not process. Amanda did some work yesterday on a new email onboarding sequence, and she sent it to Casey and I, and we review it, and great. Like there's no deadline. There's no like, hey, where's that project you promised? Last month you didn't do it. Who wants to deal with that? I hate I hate being told to do stuff like that, and I hate enforcing, someone else doing it. Let other people build teams and companies, based on process and management and big teams and all that. To your point, right? I'd like to be a company that makes a big difference, solves a really painful problem, helps a lot of marketers do better, and does it with a very tiny team of people that I love and want to be around all the time. That's what I want.
Okay, sounds great. I mean, as far as you're happy, right? That's
Yeah,
what matters. It's your company.
I am so confused, Anna, so consistently confused by entrepreneurs who feel the need to build billion-dollar companies and make hundreds of millions of dollars and, become not just personally wealthy, but they really want to return hundreds of millions of dollars to their already super wealthy investors. Like that seems to be the huge driving force behind them. I don't think it brings them joy. I think this is not, I don't mean to cast aspersions, and I'm not trying to like be insulting, but I think I'm much, much happier than Elon Musk. Like, I think I have a way better life than he does. Like, I don't think that's a great life. And it's strange to me that we've been, I don't know, conned into chasing it by sort of an elite class of people who need entrepreneurs to make, billions of dollars or die trying, right? Have their companies fail while they're trying to do it, which most do, in order to make them even richer. Boo. Sounds like crap. Why are you falling for that? I don't know. You do what you want, right? Like if you love doing that, great, fantastic. But honestly, I think it's a weird cult. I hope it goes away.
Right. I think it is. I mean, at least people start talking about like smaller wins, smaller targets. And that's really interesting. It's an interesting shift. But to get back to like people who want to be billionaires, I mean, it's vanity, and then you're in this kind of wheel and it just keeps turning, and I think it's very difficult to just jump off at some point. So you just kind of roll with it. But yeah, we wish them happiness. Okay, so yeah, something you mentioned about Amanda, right? It's Amanda doing the email and something around the email. And before that, you also said the email is essential for any kind of business. And I stumbled upon a tweet just a few days ago that said, email was one of the most challenging features because so many people misuse it and want to do all kinds of freaky stuff with email. So was it also your most challenging feature, or if not, then what was, and how did you deal with it?
Yeah. When you say feature, do you mean feature inside the product, or do you mean in terms of building an email marketing structure?
Let's try both.
Okay. So email as a feature inside of SparkToro, where essentially we we have a feature where it shows you contact info. We actually outsource that. So we just use a third party, use their API, get email data. So it's very easy for us to build. And I do recommend that for all sorts of things. I think anytime you can leverage someone who has expertise and who's built something phenomenal in a space, and you can just use their API, oh my God, just save yourself the time, use the specialist, right? They're going to do great. We use hunter.io, which does a great job of collecting emails associated with domains and social accounts and all that kind of stuff. So we don't have to worry about it. In terms of building an email marketing practice inside of SparkToro, yes, we've had, I would say Casey and Amanda probably spend, 30 to 50% of their time and energy in marketing stuff on email, because it's just so important to us. The onboarding flows, the segmentation, the questions that you ask people, the way that you respond to them, the email marketing that goes out for our, monthly webinars, the office hours, the emails that go out when you sign up for an account, when you become a paid customer, when you cancel your account, whatever, right? All these different things, like that is a huge part of the workload. And also you can't ignore it, because if you do it well and you get it right and it's functional and has high deliverability. We just did a project, I think last week, Amanda did a project where she essentially removed 25,000 or so people from our email list, just took them off because they hadn't opened an email from us in the last 90 days. And so she was like, we're just going to clean this list. And deliverability went way up, open rates went way up, click-through rate went way up, right? Because now the email providers are seeing like, oh, lots more people are clicking on SparkToro and engaging with them. So we're going to deliver it to more primary inboxes instead of spam or promotions tab or whatever. So, it's these hygienic things and this expertise that you build around email as a channel. It's big. And I think it's, frankly, like I said, unless you're serving a teenager or younger audience, email is probably going to be your number one or number two marketing investment.
Okay, so you haven't sorry, you haven't noticed like any cases of people trying to scam other people or misuse the product through your email?
No, thankfully we don't integrate deeply enough with someone's email, like whatever. We're not a CRM. We don't have direct email access. So yeah, we don't have to worry about like scams, spam, phishing, those sorts of things, people pretending to be us. I think we're still small enough to stay off the radar in that way too. But yeah, the product is very research centric. And so there's not a lot of risk around those types of things, luckily.
Okay. All right. Well, I just have a couple more questions. What's so far the biggest win and the biggest failure for SparkToro, or maybe you as a founder or CEO, like in this journey?
Gosh, good question. Let's see. I think the biggest win for us probably is, I think, getting to profitability very early in our existence. We basically were profitable about 6 or 7 months after launch, and being able to stay there and then increase our profitability as we grow, and find a space where there's clearly a lot of customer demand and people need this product, especially in a space that kind of didn't exist before. Like the kind of audience research that you can do with SparkToro, there's not really a substitute for it. You can do it manually, right? And some people do, but other than that, just very, very difficult to do. And so finding a space that was blue ocean and then building something in it and being able to build a company, we're still, quite tiny, but that is a huge success. And I think a really big win. I was very scared, and I really was. I was so scared after Moz that maybe I was a one-hit wonder, right? that like I didn't have another company in me, or Moz was my only idea, and would I be able to come up with something that people would like, right? That people would find enough value in to spend significant sums of money on. And it's exciting to see SparkToro do that. Yeah, that's a huge win. In terms of the biggest failure,
or maybe a challenge, not a failure.
Yeah, a challenge. I think I am quite surprised by how many people try SparkToro and then they sort of answer some questions about who they are. It's clear that the product would help them accomplish a task that they have, but we haven't been able to show them the value that it provides. And that is true for an overwhelming majority. I think probably 98% of people who run a search in SparkToro right now, they see the data and then they are like, okay, I don't know what I would do with this. And they leave and they never come back. And that is super sad, right? It kind of breaks my heart. And it's obviously our fault. Like it's not on them to solve it. Maybe the problem isn't painful enough for them, in which case, fine, like great, just use it, go away, whatever. But I suspect for a lot of them, probably 10 times as many people right now as come back and use it, even just the free version I'm talking about. I think for 10 times as many people as use the free version regularly, there are this huge group who would get a tremendous amount of value out of it if we did a better job of connecting, here's the problem that it solves and how it solves it for you. And this is why it's so useful and valuable. And you can solve that problem in 30 seconds, 90 seconds. Like you don't have to spend a bunch of time. I'm shocked, right? Like, so I'll talk to somebody like yourself, for example, and I'll be like, oh, have you ever used SparkToro to find your podcast guests? And they're like, no, why would I do that? And I have this like, oh my God, see, this is my problem. This is my fault. Like I'm an idiot because I have not been able to explain to podcasters that if you are wanting to reach a specific audience, let's say you want to reach SaaS founders, right? Like you should go to SparkToro and search for my audience uses these words in their bio, SaaS founders or SaaS founder or whatever, SaaS co-founder, SaaS CEO, blah, blah, blah. And then you can see exactly the people and publications they pay attention to. If you go to the social tab, you'll be like, oh, look, Rand Fishkin is like 20th on this list, but there's 600 people on here. I should invite these people that look at this. This person is followed by 17% of all SaaS founders. Why haven't I invited them on the podcast? That's insane. And if I click this button, I get their email address. Like it's just the most obvious use case in the world. But like I don't know if you have tried SparkToro, but probably even if you've tried it, you haven't been like, oh yeah, I should use it for that. Right.
So. Right. I haven't yet because I haven't had touch wood. I haven't had a shortage of guests yet. So they just kind of keep coming. And this is my third podcast today.
So. Oh my God. Oh, Anna, that's too many. How do you keep your energy up?
I don't. It's 10 p.m.
No, that's terrible. You gotta limit it to like 2 guests a day.
Right, but then life happens. So my kid got sick. So
oh yeah, me too.
I had to have a podcast yesterday, but then it was like, okay, maybe it's just like a mild fever for just one evening. So I moved it to today, and today I had 2 more. And I was like, no, moving it again would be just such a bad idea. So I have 3.
Oh, I have so much empathy for you. I'm so sorry.
I'm an extrovert. I energize off people.
Oh, well, that's good. Okay. That's helpful. Yeah. So, well, I hope, are your conversations, do you feel like they're, like you do get that energy out of it? Because I know sometimes guests come on and it's like, oh my God, it's like pulling teeth with this person.
I honestly had maybe, I can't remember one for sure, but maybe two of the guests when I was like, okay, I have to use all my mental energy. But otherwise, I'm that person that wakes up and energizes just once I see the first person I can talk to.
Okay,
So
that's good.
yeah, I was tired before this.
I
Now
bet.
I'm
Oh my
good.
God. I can only imagine. Yeah.
Right.
Well,
I had my
all right.
coffee, so
You go get some sleep, feel
yeah.
better, and then yeah, when you want to, if you need to find some guests, you can use SparkToro.
Right, but I think you just solve your problem, right? If you show me once, and that's oh my god, this is the problem that I think a lot of SaaSes have. Like they sound so amazing, and I go there, and I'm a lazy person, and I think a lot of marketers are.
Oh yeah.
So you go, and the minute you hit any friction, the minute you stop realizing like where I go next or where I can benefit from it, you just go, okay, well, there is a ton of other tools, right? So
Yeah.
I'll just try that. So how I ended with Riverside, I went to StreamYard and one other thing, and they just had like all the control buttons and bells and whistles, and I was like, I cannot, control all that while I'm talking to a person. So, and Riverside has just one button. So
Yeah.
that's,
Simple.
right. So once I'm the same, like once you show me how something works, that's it. I'm hooked.
Huh. Interesting. I wonder. Yeah. I wonder if we need to do. I mean, SaaS companies in general and founders in general just need to do more sort of personalization where we start by asking you, who are you and what are you trying to accomplish? And then we'll just do it for you rather than asking you to
Yes.
figure out how the product works and
Right.
find the right tab and find the right sort and export the right thing. Like, just give it to me.
Right. Right. At a
Yeah.
service, like we will do it for you once, and then you'll see the roadmap, and then off you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, all right. Maybe I have to hire somebody else.
There you go. I never I never consulted anybody on the podcast.
Hey,
Anyway,
you're clearly great at it. So I think we need to add product consultant to your CV.
that's what that's going to be my tagline on LinkedIn. Rand Fishkin said I'm good.
There you go. Happy to endorse.
Cool. All right. I just have one more question though. You said AA marketing not so good. So what's the trend for marketing? What's the next big thing? Where should marketers and growth marketers look into?
Well, so
Audience
every answer to
research.
every marketing question is always it depends. So,
Right.
for example, I think the big trend, if you are a marketer who currently relies on um, third-party cooking to serve ads, in retargeting world, like that's going away next year. Google Chrome is pulling it. Apple's already pulled it. Firefox has pulled it. The technology is dead. And that means that you're going to have to get used to the new sort of, whatever privacy sandbox, flock fledge thing that Google's doing. And Meta is almost certainly adopting something really similar, and Apple too, right? So this sort of like grouping people by cohorts and not being able to track individuals, and that's going to change the entire ad sector landscape. There's people who are doing browser and device fingerprinting to try and serve ads around privacy issues, and um, there's legislation to try and stop those people, and there's ad blockers to try and stop them. I think that the issue with Google Analytics changing to the change to GA4 is going to be a nightmare for a ton of marketers who aren't incredibly sophisticated analysts. I think it's going to be a big change in the world of social media marketing the last couple of years has been the move to zero-click content. So if you are a social media marketer who's been used to getting any kind of traffic from sharing your stuff on social, you're going to have to get used to a world where you essentially post native content and then someone follows up with a search or goes automatically to your website, and types it in, but you'll never be able to track them. And so you won't be able to prove the efficacy of any of your social media efforts, except with what historically have been called vanity metrics, likes, shares, whatever, retweets, impressions, all that kind of stuff. So different trends in every different universe. In the SEO world, Google has been decreasing the percent of clicks that go to websites for years and years now. The top domains in any given space are dominating more and more of the results. So if you're not one of them, you're almost certainly losing out to everybody who is. I think SEO is becoming a winner take most or nearly all game. Kind of sucks for a lot of people. There's just not as much opportunity there as there was, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. So yeah, every one of these is changing. And the only thing I can say is that's always been true. Like, marketing moves incredibly fast. I've been out of the SEO space for 5 years. I don't even recognize it. Like, it's, you have to consult with somebody who's been paying attention because, that's just how fast it moves.
Right. Okay. All right. That's super interesting. So just, keep an eye on everything that's going on and like try to catch up.
Yeah. I mean, and it's space and sector dependent. So what's changing in your sector is going to be different from what's changing in someone else's sector. And if you are doing a particular kind of marketing, one of the few, very, very few things that stays consistent, especially over the last 15 years, is email marketing. It's been really similar for a long time. A lot of the best practices still apply. And yet people still don't execute on it well because it's hard. It's hard to do right.
Yeah, that's the reason we don't have a newsletter just yet. But we will. Okay. All right, Rand, it's been amazing talking with you. I really, really enjoyed this conversation. It was super fun. So thank you for coming here and sharing all your thoughts and ideas. And hopefully we get to do it again.
I would love that. Thanks for having me, Anna. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.